Hey everybody, just real quick before we get into the meat of the video, you'll notice this is a very long video, and that is because there's a lot of process in this video because I got real pissed off that Louis Vuitton wanted to charge people $3,000 for kind of a basic bitch sweater, so I made it. And I just want to say before we get started to sort of cover my ass, I am using product photos from Louis Vuitton. I am using photography from someone named Caitlin McCullough, who took beautiful photos, by the way. This video is not monetized. At no point in this video is there any sort of paid promotion, and nothing that I share with you as part of the creation of this sweater is monetized. And I'm doing that because I don't want to get sued. Although odds of getting sued are pretty small because I'm not claiming to be Louis Vuitton. I'm not trying to recreate their logo. This sweater style is just a very classic sweater style that does not have any copyrightable bits or bobs or anything. But, you know, you never know. So, with all of that being said, let's go. Hey everybody, it's Gail, and what you see before you on the table is the back of a sweater that I am working on. So, this sweater is a freehand project that I am making because I saw a $3,000 sweater being worn by an actor I like, and I thought, my God, I need that sweater. And Louis Vuitton said you can have it for $3,050, or I could just make it. And I am writing down what I'm doing as I go, so there may be a pattern of this at some point. But I wanted to show you what I have done so far, so you can sort of get an idea of how to do this yourself. And I will go into detail about the exact way that I came to figure out my measurements and stuff in a minute. You'll see me with photos next to me, but for now, I want to just talk about the build. So this starts at the bottom edge, and you work up in one piece up to the arm join, and then you work single base crochet chains across for 12 stitches, and then you work all the way across to the other side, and then you do 12 more single base crochet chains, and then you work back and forth until you get up to where you need to put space for your neck to fit, where you break off and you work this side was worked all together in one piece, and then you can see the join here where it joined at the neckline. And this is raised double crochet. This waistband here was done with an E-hook, which is a 3mm. Wait, that might be a D-hook. Might be a C-hook. It's a 3mm hook. That's what you need to know. And then everything above the waistband is done with a 6mm hook, which is an I-hook. And then this spot here is the waistband made on the 6mm hook. I worked a row of back loop only single crochet to give it an edge similar to what's in the original sweater. So I made this first because the front neckline is a little tricky, and I wanted to have a good chunk to show you, but I also ended up finishing the front, so let's take a look at that. As I put this down, if you're thinking to yourself, Gail, didn't you also just do raised double crochet in black yarn at us just a little while ago? I did, but that was for a pattern. And that was for a 1980s jacket that came out great. I will link to that video, of course. All right, so here is the front. So this bottom portion, all the way up to the sleeve join, was done exactly as it was on the back. And then on the sleeves here, you see that I came in. I did not go all the way across on this one because if you look at the photo of the sweater that I'm duplicating, there's a zipper placket, or as I've been calling it, a zipper dicky. And so that piece I made separately, and it is right here, and it will fit in here, and it will pull in. And so the waistband, again, is the E-hook, not the E-hook, the 3mm hook. I know an E-hook's like a 3.5. I don't know why I keep saying it's an E-hook. The main body is all the 6mm, and then this... the zipper dicky here, I used the 3mm again. And the reason I wanted to show you this before I got any further is because now I've got to stitch this all together I've got to actually sew some stuff in order to figure out the rest of the sleeves, because it's a drop sleeve, and so I need to measure from where the edge drops on my arm down to my wrist and figure out how big the cuffs and the rest of the sleeve need to be. There is also an upper neck portion that needs to be completed, and then it has to be layered with a piece of white crochet fabric in the same stitch pattern. I'll show you that when I get there. But this is where we are right now on this. The next thing I'm going to do before we get into any other measurements or anything is I'm going to cut over to me looking at you, explaining the various sundry things you're going to need if you want to make the exact duplicate with the pearl accents, but also just how I figured out how to size this based on nothing but some photographs. So I will see you in just a moment. All right, everybody, I have all of my supplies here, and I want to run you through what the supplies are, because this is more than just I used X amount of yarn to make a sweater. There's a lot of details here that had to be considered when I was putting this project together. So right now, while this is the second part of the video, I'm actually far enough along on the sweater that I can give you yardage details to help you figure out how much you need if you're making it in the size that I'm making it. So the size that I'm making it, it's 40 inches around the hips, and then it's somewhere between 44 and 46 inches in the chest. And then the arms are going to be 18 inches around the bicep, and then tapering down from there. So that's kind of the size that I'm working with, and overall it's about 25 inches long. So I will have a schematic that will be on my website that shows you all of these numbers so that you don't have to remember them in the video. I am working on the pattern. I will probably not be releasing an official pattern of this sweater for a little bit still, because I've had some hiccups that you'll see in the next part of the video that caused me to have to make some updates. And however, I do think that it's going to be easy to give you a tutorial for you to use if you want to build your own, and then an official pattern will come at a later date. I'm actually in the early stages of planning a crochet book that I want to put out, and I think this is going to go into the book. So it may be that you have the tutorial, and then in a couple of years I will actually have it in a book somewhere written out as a pattern. We will see. I need to make at least one more sweater before I can be sure that I trust the pattern, and I'm going to make it for Sean. We've already picked out the brooch and the colors and everything, but I'm not going to make it for a while because this is a large project and I will need a break. So let's get into it. For supplies to make this sweater in the numbers I just told you, you are going to need 4 cones of Dishie. This is 760 yards per cone, I believe. They don't have it written on here. What the hell, man? But, I mean, pretty sure. And then you're going to need 2 skeins of Dishie in the contrasting color for the inside of the collar. You may not actually need 2 skeins. I haven't made that part yet, so I'm not sure, but I think 2 skeins will be enough. Also, you don't have to use Dishie. I'm using Dishie because I thought it would dupe well, and it is duping well. So, worsted weight yarn. You need a number 4. You need a worsted weight yarn. I'm making mine in cotton so that it's wearable for more of the year. You know, go out, have fun, use what you want to use. As always, I discourage use of acrylic because it's not going to breathe well, but that is a personal matter. I don't think it's going to actually affect the look of the sweater if you know what you're doing with acrylics. Don't use Super Saver because it's just not going to soften the way that you need it to, frankly. That being said, here's what you need. You're also going to need a 3mm and a 6mm crochet hook. I think I mentioned that in the first part of the video. It's been a few weeks. Bear with me. But that's how we start out. I am also using clear sewing thread. And I am doing this because you are going to have to sew the inside of the collar and the outside of the collar together. And I didn't want to have white thread showing through on the black side or black thread showing through on the white side. And this also will be used to attach all of the pearls. So I just figured, let's get a skein of clear thread and take care of it that way. Now, let's talk about all the bits and pieces that will need to go on the sweater. First of all, the zipper. This zipper is 16 inches long. I got it off of Etsy. I will link to the shop. The shop is actually in France. I didn't realize that when I bought it. But you can find these sparkly zippers in a lot of different places. And I'm going with the sparkly zipper because the original doesn't have sparkle, but there's a couple of shots where the zipper is very well contrasted and shiny when it's shots of Callum Turner, who is the actor that I saw wearing it and realized I needed the sweater. So I decided we're adding it. I did make one mistake, and this is important in that the zipper tab does not have a hole for me to attach the pearls so that they hang down. So I'll have to figure that out. And I think what I'll probably just end up doing is popping off this little rhinestone tab and then just attaching the pearls directly onto the zipper mechanism itself, and that'll work fine. Next up, we have the pearls. So in here, there are two sizes of pearls. Let's see if I can... Alright. Well, there's two sizes of pearls, and then the bracelet band I don't want to get rid of because I think I might have a use for it. So there they are, if we can see them. They're very small. They are slightly different colors. The smaller one is a little whiter than the larger one, but I think they'll look really good together. And these I just got from some vintage jewelry that I got at an estate sale, or a couple of estate sales, I don't remember. And these were on a choker, and these were on a bracelet, both of which were slightly too small for me when I actually brought them home and put them on. And I didn't try them on when I was there because I was just like, ooh, shiny, and $5. Okay. But I've kept them because I figured I would find a use for the actual pearls at some point, and now I have. So go me. And so those will go on, and then finally, it's in my pocket. There it is. So lastly, when you look at the Louis sweater, there is a great giant emblem on the boob. And I'm not going to create someone else's emblem. Like, it's probably trademarked, maybe copyright protected, I don't know. But this is an aviation sweater, and that brooch does add a little something to the whole look. And so I went on Etsy and I found this fantastic rhinestone brooch. I never know how to say it. And this is, I thought the V gave it that nice aviator sort of vibe while being a little bit different. And I think that's going to look really good as sort of the final accessory on the sweater when it's all done. So now that that's all done, I want to explain to you why I decided I need to put a lot of time into making a duplicate of a $3,000 sweater when you all know that I'm always working on several projects at once. And the reason I've basically kind of dropped everything to make the sweater is, one, I just really, really love it. I love the aviation style. I love the pearl details. I just think it looks really cool. Now, of course, I see a lot of sweaters online from luxury brands or non-luxury brands where I go, I could make that. But again, asking myself the important question, do I really want to? And I said yes to this one for two reasons. First of all, because I could not stop thinking about it. Because I was like, I bet I can figure this out. It's a piece that's going to stay classic looking. It's got this pearl detail that is just, it's really just singing to me. So that was part of it, is I want to. The other reason, however, is because this is a $3,000 sweater from a luxury brand, and they are coasting on that logo. Okay, they are fucking coasting on that logo, and let me explain why. First of all, because those are not real pearls on the Louis Vuitton sweater. Those are pearly accents according to their own ad copy. And the thing is, if they were really pearls, Louis Vuitton would tell you, though, oh, these are real pearls, and probably cite you where they got them. Because that's what a luxury brand does when it is using real pearls or other gemstones or stuff that costs money. And if these pearls were real, I could actually forgive the second part of my problem with this sweater, but it is partly that these are pearly accents and not actual pearls. And then the other part is that this sweater, and it looks very nice. This is not fiber snobbery. It's only listed as a wool poly blend. It's 60% wool, 40% polyester. And that is a totally fine fiber combination. Lots of sweaters are made in a wool poly blend. This is not, oh my God, how could you not? But my problem is your sweater is $3,000 fucking dollars. And because there's no details about the type of wool you're using, it's probably just sheep's wool, which is incredibly cheap. There are people raising sheep now who don't even bother to raise for fleece anymore because there's no money in it. It is much more financially positive for them to raise sheep for meat rather than wool because there's just not a market. So this is a cheap fiber. It doesn't mean that it's a bad fiber. It doesn't mean it feels wrong. None of that. But it is a cheap fiber blend they're using to make a $3,000 sweater. If you are going to charge me $3,000 for a fucking sweater, there better be real goddamn pearls on there, and the wool that you're using had better be from like the three-nutted secret goat of Timbuktu, whose ball sack only gets shaved once every 5 years and then spun into wool. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I could have made this sweater out of literally any of the Knitpick worsteds for at most a few $100s, which is a lot of money to spend on a sweater. We've all done it, or we've thought about it. And that's kind of my point, is that the $3,000 for this sweater is not, it's a cheat. They're cheating you. Because what you're paying for that $3,000 is a fiber blend that you can get on any sweater anywhere for, I looked it up and I saw stuff that was like $60. I saw stuff that was a couple of hundred. So like, is it going to be as cheap as the $20 acrylic sweater you got at the Target? No, but $60 if you're trying to, buy stuff that's going to last a little longer, etc. There you go. So the blend that they're using at other companies that are not about selling you their logo, a couple $100. That seems reasonable. But then to add insult to injury, they're using fake jewelry when they are Louis fucking Vuitton, and then slapping their logo over your tit and charging you $3,000. So yes, this is something of a spite build, and I'm okay with that. It's looking really good. You're gonna see it. Like I said, there's been some hiccups, but they're totally worth it. I think the end result's gonna look great. Will it have Louis Vuitton's giant fucking logo over my tit? No. But my pearls will be real. So, yeah, so that is the story of why we're doing this. Let's talk very quickly about the sizing of it, because I do want to explain how I did that, because I gave you all my numbers, but I want to show you how I figured them out. So this is really just a matter of knowing what fits my own body. And looking at the sweater photos on the model, the place that the waist hits, like at the bottom, is where a lot of my cosplay sweaters hit. And so I was like, okay, those are usually 24 inches. So let's say 24 inches for the whole thing. And then what I did was I took the product photos and I made them as big as I could on my computer screen, and I got out a ruler and I measured the waistband itself, and then I measured from the waistband to the bottom of the zipper placket, and then I measured the whole thing from the top of the waistband to the shoulder as best as I could. And what I figured out was that the waistband and then the main body of the sweater, so everything above the waistband, the waistband was exactly 1/6 the size of the main body of the sweater. And so I went, all right, if it's 24 inches, 1/6 of 24 is 4. So the waistband is 4 inches tall, and then the rest of the sweater is the rest of that height, and then everything was sort of adjusted from there. And that's a really basic way to start understanding the size of something, because then I could say, okay, well, if the waistband is 1/6, what is the difference between the waistband and the wristbands? And then figuring out what that was to figure out how big the wristband should be. And then that ends up influencing the way the sleeves are shaped, how long they are, where the drop is, etc. So I will try to write up a little more about that when I am writing this up for adding it to my website, so that hopefully by the time you're seeing this video and going to the website, there's a little more there to help you figure it out yourself if this is a kind of project that interests you, but maybe this is not the exact sweater you want to make. But this is the exact sweater I want to make, so I'm going to go back to it, and I will see you in a few. Alright, I have sewn the seams together, and I added the base of the collar, which I'm very, very happy with. But having now sewn it all together and put it on, I have discovered a problem, and it is that these sleeves are too long. So what happened is, when I was doing my measurements and things, I knew that this sleeve, this drop shoulder, basically needed to be about 5 inches, and I went ahead and added that 5 inches. If you look here, this is the 5 inches I added. I did not take into account the fact that this is a baggy sweater, and so actually, if I just take the sleeve off completely, this will get me the correct amount of sleeve drop as shown in the photos for this piece. And the thing that I did when I was looking at it last night to figure out kind of where I'd screwed up is that the bottom edge of the sleeve drop, which should be here, matches really closely to this center zipper pocket. And so that is now my trick for figuring out exactly how long it needs to be, is when I put it on, this needs to sort of shape together. So now we enter into the difficult phase, which is that in order to get the sleeve drop where I want it, I have to undo all of this collar. I then have to take out the seams on both sides, at the top and at this bottom edge where these the sleeve join starts, which means I'm also going to have to pop out the zipper placket so that it can later be replaced back in after I have redone the entire upper torso of the front and the back, so that I do not have all of this excess sleeve length. And when I tell you, I really, really don't want to do that, but I want this to be right. So I am going to undo what was probably 10 hours of work. Maybe less. I don't know. I don't count, because if I counted hours, I would realize how much time I spend, and it would make me a little crazy, so I never track. But it's a lot that has to come off of this so that we can then make it correctly. But it will be made correctly when it's done, and that is the goal. So I'm going to go undo all of this work and hopefully come back with a sleeve drop that is the proper length. So yeah, just a note, if you do have positive ease in a garment, which is what you call it when it's extras, keep that in mind when you're building the sleeve if there is a sleeve drop in the pattern, because that ease will turn into a drop. So lessons learned. Boy, I wish I could think visually. Alright, off to the next adventure. Sorry. Alright, I am back with the updated sleeves And I went ahead and I put the collar back on because I tried this on and I could tell it was fitting the way that I wanted in terms of the sleeves. So yay, the collar is done halfway. Again, the collar is really fucking annoying. Anyway, as you can see, I'm hoping that the ring light is helping you see the detail here. So the lower edge of the zipper placket is right here. And if you go across, we are really close to exactly where I wanted it to be. And it's only like one row off from an exact match to the bottom of the zipper placket. So very, very happy. This is much more like what it looks like in the photo in terms of the drop shoulder. And so now that I have this all done, what I can do is start working on the sleeves. And the sleeves are going to probably be pretty easy for me because I have the measurements figured out for the main body of the sleeve and then the cuff. But then also, I've done a lot of sleeves where I've decreased as I've worked. And so with having the gauge down and knowing that the gauge is consistent, it's going to be very easy to know when to decrease to start pulling in to get the shape I want from my bicep down to my wrist so that it is a nice smooth decrease. It doesn't like get all bunched up anywhere. So after that is done, after both sleeves are done, as a matter of fact, this whole thing is going to go through the wash a few times just to soften it up a little bit. I am using, I forget if I said earlier, but I am using Knitpicks Dishie for this, which is 100% cotton. It's a washcloth yarn generally, and it is a very dense yarn because it's meant to be absorbent and it's meant to last a long time and go through a lot of washes. And y'all, I have black fluff from this yarn all over my damn house, okay? Like, it's everywhere. I literally was I got out of the shower and I went to like clean my ears and there was fluff in my ears. It gets everywhere. So just a warning if you use it. This is going to go in the wash. It's going to go through the wash a few times to soften it up. While that's happening, I will make the inside of the collar by just remaking the collar, except not on the sweater, which will make it less annoying because this is a very annoying collar to make when you have to keep turning all the sweater weight around and around and around at the end of rows. And then once that's done, I will soften up the inner collar through hand washing and probably like getting a fabric softener sheet in there to scrub it with. That's a really easy way to sort of soften up fiber. And then sew those together and move into the next stage of things, which will be all the detail work. Actually, I won't sew them together first. The zipper has to go in, then I can sew them together. Just have to keep reminding myself of that, because I would really be mad if I sewed it together without remembering to put the zipper in, because I bought a special zipper just for this project. So those are the next steps. I'm going to go get back to it. Next time you see me, I should have sleeves. Hey everybody! Sweater! With sleeves! I'm so excited. Mostly excited to get to throw it in the wash, which is why we're in the laundry room. Real quick look at the sleeves. You can see that they taper, and then I've got a nice tight cuff. So this cuff is 3 inches, and what I did was I just worked the sleeve until it hit right at the base of my wrist here. That's the most awkward way I could have shown you that. And then from there, that's where I worked the cuff from because I wanted it to be a little oversized. So sleeves are on. Ends are woven in. Washing machine has other stuff in it. In we go. Woo! This is very exciting. There it is, the blob. Good baby. Oh, I can't even see correctly in here. That's pants. This is the sweater. So happy. Yeah, so I'm going to wash it on delicate because that is what is recommended for the yarn. And also this way I can know ahead of time if I have any escaping ends. So let's go. Okay, we are out of the washer and dryer and we are softened up and looking great. I am very pleased. So all of the seams on the sweater from the shoulder seam here, the side seam here, and then the under seam here were all done by doing slip stitches on the right side of the work. So usually when you're slip stitching a seam, you do it on the inside of the work, and then you get that seam, you get the seam marking. I'm sure there's a fancy word for it, but you know what I mean, where it dips down and then your seam is sort of inner instead of outer. So I did it on the outside because I thought it just matched so well with the overall look of the sweater, and I'm very happy about that. But I'm also very happy that the washing process softened up the underarm here so that it is not as stair-step looking in its join. Because what I did was I decreased at the end of every row that I decreased on. All the decrease rows were, the decreases were worked at the beginning and the end of the row, and it did look a little stair-stepping when I stitched them together, but that softened up. Hold on, drop something. So that's really great. I'm super happy about that. Next thing, I worked the inner collar. So this was just done to the same specifications as the other collar, except I didn't have to shift that weighty fuck around the whole time. And so this will be pinned along the collar line here. And then we will sew it into place so that we have that same collar look. And of course, remember when you're thinking about the photos, it is zipped at the top so that you can only see the collar. So this does actually, this will stand up properly once it's all put into place. I just have to put it into place. Now, before we do the inner collar, we have to get the zipper in. I want the zipper in, and then I'm going to put the inner collar on top, and then that will reinforce the zipper, which is very important because the zipper's got a lot of work to do. So I have the zipper, and I have done the detail work on the zipper itself. So this little gold piece here is meant to mimic the gold zipper pull from the original, and it's actually part of the clasp from the choker that I took apart to use the bigger pearls for the wrist cuffs. And then I just strung it and 5 pearls onto some floral wire, and then just, can we get a good shot of that? I don't think we can. It's really small. Yeah, you can kind of see it. I just bent it back so it will stay in place. But now we are at a scary part of the project because this zipper is a little too long, and I knew that when I bought it. And I have shortened zippers in the past. I haven't done it in a while, though. And these are these little rhinestone zipper teeth instead of like regular zipper teeth. And I know what to do, because what you do, you can buy a whole kit, and you get these pinchy little bastards right here. And then you get like a zipper stop that goes, you put up at the top, and then there's a crimping tool. And the reason I'm a little nervous is because this zipper I had to order online unintentionally from France, but it's wonderful quality. I'm not mad about that. But you only get one shot to shorten a zipper. And I'm feeling confident about it, but I've never tried it. I've never tried to pull off the teeth on something with, extra decorations on the teeth of it. So I'm a little nervous, but I think I got this. And I mean, worst case scenario, I will run out and buy a less fantastic zipper if I need to. Because I really do want to finish. We are so close. And so that's going to go in. The inner collar is going to go on top. And then the last thing we need to do to finish this off is that if you look at the photos, it doesn't really show up well in the product photos, at least until you zoom in. But in one of the photos of Callum Turner wearing it, you can see that there is I'm going to call it a faux cuff, which is confusing because this is also a cuff, but it's a cuff edge. And that one does have buttonholes in it. But the thing is, I don't think that unbuttoning them actually unbuttons the cuff. They're just like an extra little piece. I'm not putting buttonholes in. It's going to be too much of a pain in my ass. It's possible to do in crochet, even if you don't work the buttonholes originally. But it requires cutting through your finished stitches and then hemming those so that they don't fray on you. We're not doing that. What I'm going to do is make the faux cuffs to the size that I believe they are, which they look like they're about 6 inches long. Based on the fact that if you look at the photo, it looks like they are about twice the size of the wrist cuff, because they start at the edge of the wrist cuff and then come down into the arm where you work with the larger hook. And so looking at that, it looks like it's about 6 inches, because this is 3 inches on mine. So whatever theirs is, I think it's still the same thing, where it's double the length of the smaller part of the cuff. And so I'm going to just figure that out. I'm going to wing it, but it's not super interesting to watch. And then, you're just going to sew it on, and then I'm just going to sew the pearls on and like sew through both layers so that the pearls, one, are attached very securely, but also two, will get sort of the sense of there being buttonholes there. Like, I think it's very doable. So those are the last things to do. And, I think the first thing I'm going to do is get the zipper figured out, even though the faux cuffs are going to be super quick to knock out. I need to get the zipper handled so that I know that I did okay. So I'm going to go on and do the finishing work, and maybe the next time you see me, we are showing this baby off. Maybe the next time you see me, I'm bemoaning the fact that I fucked up the zipper. Let's find out. It's done! Oh my god. Y'all, I'm so happy. Look at these pearls. Oh my god, look at them. They look amazing. There is a third one down here, but this edge of the cuff is being kind of an attention whore. So probably going to just iron that down flat after I film. Look at them. Look at the zipper. It's in there. It's nice and straight. My zipper tab looks great. It is between the two pieces of the collar. I was a little worried when I started sewing the inner collar in, because I was afraid I might get it slightly off kilter and it would radically fuck up the look. Nope. I laid it down. I just laid it down flat. I pinned it down hard and I went for it, and it went great. The brooch is amazing. Look at that. Yeah, that's great. A couple of things. The clear sewing thread was a mistake, not because it doesn't work, but because, my god, trying to hand sew with a thread you can't really see is a fucking disaster. But also, it doesn't knot the way that sewing thread usually knots. Like, I only know one way to knot sewing thread at the end, like to get ready to sew, because it's how my grandma taught me. You can't do it with nylon, I discovered. So, that's a me problem, that part. The not being able to see it, that's going to be an everyone problem. So just note. But yeah, the last bits here all came together beautifully, and I'm going to do a little twirl to show it all off. And then I'm going to put up a photo of the original and let you just drink that in, and then we're going to come back to me. I did it. I fucking nailed it. I'm super happy. So let's talk really quickly about the cost of making this, because I think that's a really important thing to discuss when you see something and you're like, I can make that. Because the sweater that inspired this is $3,000, $3,050. And I have detailed that I believe that you are paying for the logo on your tit. And so this sweater, the amount of yarn, so it was about 3.5 cones of Dishie cotton. It was about a skein and a half of Dishie for the inner neck. The cost of that, plus the zipper, plus the brooch, and then like, I figured I probably spent $5 each on the jewelry that I broke down for the pearls. That comes to about $130. I think it was like 131, but let's make it 130 so the math is easier. And then you have to consider the amount of time it took to make this. So I started working on this project on January 26th. I started figuring out the reverse engineering part. The yarn arrived on February 1st. I finished this on February 26th. So it took most of a month. And now I don't stitch full time. I have a day job. But I estimate that between the planning and the design, and then not just making it, but having to frog it out at the sleeves to get it right, I spent probably 80 hours on it. And I remind you, I stitch very fast. So 80 hours. And if if someone were to ask me for a commission, for something this large, it's $30 an hour. And so that would come out to $2,400. $2,400 plus $130 is $2,530. And so we are coming out about $500 ahead of what the Louis Vuitton sweater costs. And that's not bad. Something else to consider is that the reason it took 80 hours is because I had to reverse engineer it. I had to figure out what stitch pattern, how are the different hook sizes going to work? You know, what's the gauge going to be? And I won't have to do that when I make this again. I'm going to be making Sean one probably in about 6 months. I've done all of that work, and so all of the planning work can get kind of pushed to one side. We don't have to worry about it anymore, and then what comes in is just the amount of time for the actual creation of the garment. Probably, I would estimate right now, that's about 60 hours. 60 hours of just the stitching. And so, taking that into account, 60 times 30 is 1,800. Plus 130 for supplies, that's 1930. So we're coming in almost $1,000 under what the Louis Vuitton costs. And these are real pearls. These are real pearls. So just, you know, something to think about. I just really do not like when luxury brands do this kind of shit where, like, you're already a luxury brand. And look, if you've got $3,000 and you want to buy the sweater, buy the fucking sweater. I don't care. Okay? That's your money. It's whatever. However, I do think it's important to consider things like what they're asking for and what they're providing you. And for $3,000, they wanted to sell you a wool poly blend and fake pearls because there was a big logo over the tip. For $130 and use of my time that I was happy to use on this project, I don't need to spend $3,000 on that sweater. And because I think it's very important to share when I do stuff like this because it's fun and I want to encourage other people. If you go over to my website, I do have a schematic up. It's got sort of the layout, it's got the gauge, it's got the stitch explanation, and it's not a full pattern, but it will get you started. I think it's in a good place that it will be able to get you started. You're going to be able to understand how to do it. And not only will it be on my website in a blog post, it will be available as a PDF. Everything's 100% free. And, you know, go forth, experiment, have fun, enjoy yourself. I love when something grabs me like this because it reminds me how much fun it is to make shit, you know? I feel so good. Alright, as always, if you enjoy what I do here, please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, all of that fun stuff. I'm gonna go walk around like I'm king of the world because, well, and I will see you when I see you.